So hello everyone, good to see a lot of you again. This is BA 407, which is Business Law 2, which is a follow-on to my Introduction to Business Law class. Most of you, I think, have had me in BA 230 Business Law or other classes, so, but for those of you that haven't, I'll introduce myself a little bit. My name is John Hasbrook. I am a practicing attorney. It's what I do in the real world. I have my office here in Monmouth, and in my practice I primarily focus nowadays, I've done all kinds of things over my career, but primarily what I do now is small business setup. So I help people set up small businesses, family run businesses, mostly LLCs and S corporations and C corporations. Occasionally we do some partnership type things, but that's what most people do nowadays in the business world, or LLCs and corporations. And so I help people set those up, and then I handle their annual minutes and activities for things that come up with their business. Contract law, I do a lot of estate planning for how to transition out of your business, and then just normal estate planning like wills and trusts, and after people die, handling the administration of their estate through the court system, through probate, or if it's a trust, administration of a trust, and other types of planning for transitions after you die. And a lot of that does coincide with business activity and how to transfer businesses to the next generation of family business. So I do a lot of that now. I do a lot of real estate law. In fact, I'm working on a case right now that I'll probably talk about later in the term. Contracts and easements and right of first refusals and options to buy and leasing. And I don't really do a lot of residential landlord tenant, but we'll talk a little bit about that in this class and things like that. So a little bit about my background, just so you know where I'm coming from. I'm from Salem. I'm a Salem boy. Went to Sprague. Then after I got out of high school, went to Linfield for a while, played football, I got hurt, quit that. And then I transferred over and I ended up going to Willamette there in Salem. Got a BA in economics and minor in political science and Spanish. And then from there I went to law school, also at Willamette in Salem. My primary focus in law school was actually in international law. I wanted to be a maritime attorney. I used to be a professional diver. I taught scuba diving, commercial diving. I did work in Alaska and Glacier Bay and all kinds of places. So I've done kind of lots of mishmash. I tell you about that because I want you to know about my background. This is a seminar class, all right? So from my standpoint, this is the first time I've ever taught this class face-to-face. The only other time I taught this class was during COVID. We had to come up with some remote classes for people. And so I got a call like a week before the term started and say, hey John, can you come up with a class? I'm like, sure, let's do Business Law 2, which is a follow-on. So I will tell you right now that this class is in a work in progress for me. I actually didn't know I was going to teach this till about a month ago. So I'm still in the process of actually creating it. And kind of from my viewpoint, where I'm going to go with this class is sort of two parts. Number one is sort of the homework side, where you're going to be doing some reading out of the textbook, doing some Mindtap activities, which I'll get into in a minute. If you took my BA 230 class recently, you're familiar with Mindtap because I use it there as well. So we're going to have, that's where all of your grades are going to come from, and your assignments and reading. And that's going to be really a self-paced thing you do on your own. And then my lecture is, I kind of was thinking, I was talking with my friends about this class, and one of my business clients actually, I was telling them about it, and I would just basically ask them, hey, what didn't you learn in university that you wish you would have? You know, things like that. So, yeah, you know, I do this in the real world. I've been practicing law since 1991, which is about a couple years now, a couple decades, more than that. Wow, long time. So I kind of look at this class as it's my opportunity to really get in a little bit more depth about what we teach in Introduction to Business Law. We're going to talk a little bit more in detail about corporations, LLCs, how you can structure your business so you can shelter liability, some tax advantages to using leases and things like that in a business. So really more in depth in how businesses really work in the real world. I'll do a little review to begin with next week on businesses and how you get things set up and whatnot. And then we're going to get into a lot more detailed stuff like shareholder agreements and stock options and things like that. And then we'll talk about real estate. I plan to go through on how you, in the real world, if you wanted to buy a house or other piece of real estate, the steps that are involved in doing that, what paperwork's involved, how a title company does escrow, title searches, what kind of deeds we have, different kinds of leases, and for primarily commercial is what I do for like shopping centers and stuff. We will talk a little bit about landlord tenant law. You know, if you're going to be a landlord or a tenant, there's a lot of very specific rules you have to follow, and we'll get into those in a little bit more detail. We'll talk about family businesses and how they differentiate from just a regular business, and some succession planning ideas with that. We'll talk about some employment law, what your obligations are if you're an employer, so the rules you have to follow in terms of family medical leave and minimum wage and sick time and all those kind of employment rules. And then we'll get just kind of a mishmash of things that are very real world. So I don't really exactly know yet where I'm going. I haven't put up a bunch of materials yet on our Canvas page. I'm going to be working on those literally as the course proceeds along. So it's going to be really a lot more of a lecture class. For you guys, what I also, if you have something you would like to talk about or look into or discuss with me, I mean, you have me here, and I'm a practicing attorney, and you know, if you've got questions or things you want to talk about, you know, don't go into your personal details and stuff, but you know, if you've got something you want me to look into and talk about in class, I'm more than happy to do that, you know, to the extent that I can. So that's kind of, this class is going to be sort of like a piece of clay that we're going to mold over the course of the term in terms of follow-on business law. So in terms of the, a little bit more about my background, like I say, I went to Willamette. I worked for the, while I was in law school, I worked for the Justice Department in Salem, the Attorney General's office, and I was, oh, they had a name for it. I call it an internship, but so I'd actually go to court and do all that kind of stuff, and write up court papers and all that. I was in the criminal justice division over at the Attorney General's office, the DOJ, and then I switched over to the trial division. So when I first started law school, I really wanted to be a career prosecutor, and so that's where I focused on. After I got out of law school, I took the bar exam, and then I got a job in Multnomah County, downtown Portland, and I was a district attorney there, a deputy DA, prosecutor. So I worked for Multnomah County DA's office, downtown Portland, and then we had a satellite place out there in Gresham. And so I worked there. I did you have a rotation in the DA's office. You go from one division to the next. So you start off in intake division, where you learn how to charge crimes. You work with the police, determine what charges should be filed. You review police reports. If it's a felony, you go to what's called a grand jury, which is a group of people that are just brought in randomly to determine if there's enough evidence to go forward on a criminal case, and then you would go to trial. And so I did that. I was in court every single day. I did a lot of jury trials on all kinds of everything from dog bite cases all the way to murder cases. So I did that for a number of years. Frankly, I got really burned out. It's very, very stressful. You're in court every day. You're always thinking about what you're going to be saying to the jury, and how you're going to present your arguments, and what you're going to say to the judge, and you know, evidence and all that. So I did that for a number of years. I got a lot of experience, and then I had the opportunity to move out of doing that. I completely switched gears, and I went from being a criminal law focused lawyer to corporate law. And so I switched over and I became an in-house corporate attorney for a family-run business in the Salem area, in semi-truck industry. And you'd see their trucks all over the place. They're located out of Brooks. So I was in-house counsel, and they had at the time about 800 semi-trucks, and you know, truck drivers and driving all around the country, and they had locations all throughout the U.S. And my job was to represent the corporation, and what I would do is primarily involving accidents. When our truck would get into an automobile accident, either our trucks ran into somebody, or somebody most often would cut in front of a semi-truck and jam the brakes on, and bad news. So we would usually get sued, and I'd have to go deal with it. But I also dealt with union issues. Our drivers were all union drivers, so we had to negotiate union contracts, and then leasing and environmental issues with diesel and all of that. We had spills occasionally, so we have to go clean that up and do all those kinds of things. So lots of corporate type stuff, and then I switched gears again, and that's how I ended up here. The lawyer here in town was my parents' attorney, actually. Like I say, I'm from Salem, and he knew I was in town and he was going to retire. And he called me up one day and said, hey, you want to come buy me out? I'm like, oh, yeah, it sounds interesting. So I went over and talked to him, and I've been here ever since. So that was, I bought him out in the late 90s. So I've been here ever since, my own practice. I, in the past, did all sorts of everything from divorce work to child custody to just whatever you can imagine. For quite a long time, I was general counsel for the school district here, so I did a lot of their work. I still do work for the school district, but it's real limited and focused now. So I've done a lot of different law over the years, and so I want to bring a lot of that experience to this class and you know, kind of explain that to you and all that. So that's what my lecture is going to be focused on. I'm just going to kind of talk to you about, in some respect, war stories, but also, you know, cases I've worked on and that kind of thing. So now in terms of the nitty-gritty of the class, so we'll be using the same textbook that we used in BA 230. So if you bought this from the bookstore in my Introduction to Business Law class, it's the same textbook. We will also be using Mindtap, which is the affiliated learning management system, I think they call it. I call it homework. Program, just like we did if you took my business law class in the last couple of years. I've been using it in that class. So all of your assignments are going to be done on Mindtap. I'm not going to be giving you any assignments in class. It's going to be purely lecture, talk, and discussion. You don't need to bring the book with you. Don't throw your back out lugging this thing around. This is purely for homework, so you don't need to bring it with you to class. I don't yet have a course packet, which on my syllabus I reference. I'm working on that. I frankly, honestly don't know if I'll get that all put together because I'm going to be doing it as the term progresses. But I will be posting that on our Canvas page in a PDF format. If I do get it all compiled, I will put it all together and have them make a packet over at the bookstore. But I really don't see that happening. I'm probably just going to do it on a week-by-week basis. I'll be posting my materials that I'll be using in class for lecture and all that. So the grading component of the class, my mouse, there it goes. So on Mindtap, I have a number of activities for you to do, and I will tell you right now that on Mindtap, your reading and assignments are going to be a lot more detailed in terms of the scope of the law that I'm going to ask you to read about. In some respect, it's a lot more detailed than what I will be doing in my lectures. My lectures are not going to strictly follow the textbook, because what I'm going to be talking about is, you know, specific stuff that I've done. So you're going to be reading about things that I'm not really even sometimes going to talk about in class. There will be a lot of overlap, but I'm going to get a lot more into the nitty-gritty than they do in the textbook. Really more of an MBA level of information than they do. So you're going to be reading about things that you're going to say, well, you know, you didn't talk about that in class. Right, I didn't, because I'm kind of focused on more real-world stuff than the academic side. But that's where all of your grades are going to come from. All of the assignments on Mindtap. So, excuse me. So basically I put it together so there's, on Mindtap, there's the ability to earn up to 1,360 points, but I'm only going to use 1,250 for grading. So you can do extra credit and basically guarantee yourself an A. If you do all the Mindtap assignments, you will pretty much, you'll do very well in this class. You'll probably get an A if you do all the assignments, because with that extra credit component. I'm probably not going to do that this term. Eventually I'm probably going to have some essays and whatnot, but you guys are lucky because you're my test students, so to speak. So I don't see that happening, although I may offer some as extra credit, and that way you may not, if you decide you don't want to do as much Mindtap, you can maybe do some essays instead. I'm gonna be real flexible on how we do that. I really want you to be able to work on your own time at your own speed and do things when you want to do it. You know, my lectures are going to be each week, but you work on everything else on your own. So everything point-wise will be on Mindtap. And again, there's 1,300 possible points that you can earn right here. But I'm only going to use 1,250 for the grade. So basically there's 90 points of extra credit, which is almost a grade level. All right. How many people have used Mindtap? I think most of you have. None of you?
Mm-mm.
Really? No, I know some of you have.
I took your business log like in 2018.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't
Yeah,
using
I
it
took
then.
yours in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, it was around there.
Okay,
It was
well,
a
yeah,
good-
when COVID hit, I switched up gears because we had to go all remote. So that's when I started using Mindtap. Well, in that case, let me explain Mindtap. Okay, so Mindtap is when you buy the book at the bookstore, on the back there's a little like a card kind of thing. It's, you know, it's wrapped in cellophane, and there's this little card. Don't lose that. That is your key code for the Mindtap program. It comes with the book, your subscription. And I apologize for the price. I tried to keep it down as cheap as I could. This hardcover book is like $380. So I told them, hey, you know, let's just get as cheap as we can and also include the online component. So what you have over in the bookstore is loose leaf to put into a 3-ring binder. It's a little bit cumbersome, I know that. When you get the Mindtap, it also includes a digital version of this book. And they also have an app, so you can read on your phone or your tablet. It's actually it works pretty well. So let me show you what Mindtap looks like. Need a wireless mouse. All right. So where'd it go? All right. So first of all, Mindtap is a online learning system where basically they have the, hold on, let me, I gotta do something real quick here. I just realized I didn't put my Mindtap code here on your, okay. So here's what Mindtap looks like. We'll start with that and then I'll come back to our Canvas page. So Mindtap is a digital learning program. And essentially the way it works is you have the textbook. So for example, this is chapter 20 of the textbook. Literally it's the same words exactly. And you can read it digitally, and then they have these little homework things that you do. And they're most of them are pretty short. They may take you like 10 minutes. Some of them are a little bit longer. But typically, like this first activity here, there's a case that you're going to read, and then they're going to ask you questions, and that's worth 10 points. Okay, so it's just a quick little thing. And so you read the chapter, looks like this. It's got the whole chapter in there. Basically, you can just read through it, just like you would the textbook, and you can read through. Or you can read the textbook, and then you go on to the activities. Once you're done with that, and then you'll do the little activities that look like this. You'll read, like they'll give you a little scenario here, and then you answer the question and you get points, that kind of thing. The rest, some of the other ones are, let me see if I can find one here real quick. True, false, multiple choice type questions. so like this one here, fill in the blank type question. So you just go through and fill in the blank, or do you match the words? It's just kind of those on true, false, multiple choice, word match, short answer. You watch a video, you answer a few questions. It's all, each little assignment or task or whatever you want to call it, it's pretty short. But I do recommend that, number one, you go ahead and get your Mindtap set up right away, because there's a little bit involved in setting it up online and getting your account and your password. Don't lose your password and all that. When you go to log on, you'll have to use the course key, which I'll show you in a minute. It's on our Canvas page. And I have instructions on our Canvas page on how to log on and everything. But again, on that, your course key code is going to be that little thing on the back of your packet. So basically what you're going to do on Mindtap is you're going to go through and just do these activities. The more you do, the more points you get. If you do them all and you get a perfect score, you're going to get an A. You got all the points there are. So it does take time. I really highly recommend that you do a little bit each week. I don't have any deadlines. I'm going to totally leave it up to you. But by the course of the term, it's really best if you start right away and work your way through. In theory, you could get it all done in a weekend. I mean, you pot of coffee and no sleep, you get it all done in a weekend. I don't recommend doing that. I'm not that kind of person. I have to do a little bit at a time, but I have a lot of friends that do it that way, in law school and everything else. So it's up to you to do that at your own pace. If you feel like you're falling behind or not sure where you should be, feel free to get a hold of me and I'll say, here's kind of where you should be. I do have a course schedule, but it's sort of suggested, not mandatory in terms of dates and deadlines. It's totally up to you when you want to do it. So that's kind of how Mindtap works. And then on my end, as you complete things, it shows me that you've completed them. You'll see the number of points that you've generated as you complete each assignment, so you can figure out how many points you need. If you get to the end, and if you get to one of the little assignments and you look at it and say, I don't really like this one, you can skip it and go on to the next one, because you've got that extra point, extra credit buffer that I built in. If you're having any problems, email me. Email is the best way to get a hold of me. My email address, I'll show you in a minute, is back on my syllabus. So that's the Cengage Mindtap. So that's where all of your assignments and all of your points are going to come from that. And I'll just kind of show you here. So there's, I think, about 100 of these in total. And each one should be worth 10 points. Yeah. So once you start doing it, it becomes self-explanatory. It's pretty straightforward. So to get to Mindtap, so this is our Canvas page right here. So I have our syllabus. This is a course schedule. I'll show you that real quick. And again, this is suggested. These are the topics that I intend to cover that week. I may get behind or I may get ahead. I'm not real sure yet. But this is the Mindtap course key code, which I also have, I'll show you in a minute, in another module. So this is kind of what I want you to do this week and then next week. And if you just kind of follow this and you do the Mindtap activities for that particular week, you'll be right on track. Again, if you have any problems or you're not sure, just send me an email or give me a call. So these are sort of the topics we're going to be talking about each week. And again, that's subject to how far along I get. Okay, so here are the Mindtap instructions. So this will lead you through that. Also with your book, it has the same thing. This is the course key code that you'll need to enter to access this class in the Mindtap program. I do have other Mindtap classes that I use, so if for some reason when you log on it's giving you like my BA 230 class, let me know, and there may be some error in the way I have it set up. But that leads you through how to do it. And the first 2 weeks, I'm just going to show you this right here. You do have free temporary access for the first 2 weeks, but you will have to purchase either the textbook that comes with the course key, or you can buy this separately online and not even buy the book. It'll come with a digital book. I think it's like $10 cheaper if you do it that way, something like that. I do use the same book in my Business Law 1 class, but you've already taken that, so it doesn't matter, right? If you do have problems, right here is a phone number, and that's to the publisher, which the publisher is Cengage, and you can call this number and they will walk you through it. They're really actually pretty helpful. It's not like those normal software phone numbers you call and are put on hold for 2 hours. They work really well. I've talked to some of my students that have used them, and they'll just literally walk you right through it. And so if you do have any problems, let me know. You're not in a big time crunch because we're right at the beginning of the term. I really recommend you don't wait till the last day of the term and you start doing everything, because you won't get it done, and then you got a problem. So this week your main goal is just to get on Mindtap, play around a little bit, start doing your readings and doing your assignments, and see how far you get. Okay, then I also have, hold it. We got a bunch of junk on here that you guys won't see. So I do have some supplemental stuff on here that I have been working on with some videos and whatnot. Some of these are from the Secretary of State's office. None of these are required that you watch. They're supplemental materials. Like I say, I'm still working on all this, but I will be adding to this as I develop my materials each week that I'll be using for my overheads. I will be posting those on here as well, so you'll have them for your own information. And so it's going to grow along with the class over the course of the term. Okay, so let me go back to my syllabus real quick. So I forgot to talk about something. All right, so I forgot to talk about if you need to get a hold of me. My law office is here in Monmouth. I'm 3 blocks on the other side of not Burgerville. Well, yeah, Burgerville and what's there, like Carl's Jr. across the street there, whatever it is. So Burgerville on down 3 blocks, and then on Atwater Street, there's a State Farm agent, and that's where my office building is. I do have an office here on campus in West House, but I'm not there all the time. I'm very rarely there. Because literally I go to my office, I come here, I teach, well, I don't go back, I'm gonna go home after this, but normally I go back and forth during the day. So if you need to get a hold of me, the best way to contact me is at my law office. This is my phone number for my law office, 503-838-0251. If you call, you'll either get one of my assistants or you might get me directly. I do answer my own phones. But I do have my assistants there. If they're not there, you'll get my voicemail. Just leave me a message or tell them that you're one of my students and they'll put you through if I'm available. If not, they'll give you my voicemail. Just leave me a message. To email me, this is my law practice email, johnhasbrook@msn.com. And this is my Western email, hasbrookj@woo.edu. If you do want to send me an email, I would like you to send it to me at both email addresses. And the reason why is I check my law practice email all the time. That's what goes to my iPhone. I check it on, I'm constantly checking because it's my law practice. My Western one I don't check quite as often because I can't log on to it as easy on my iPhone and my iPad and stuff. So it's quicker and you'll get a faster response from me if you email me at both places, and then I'll respond to you. Now, if you do send me an email in the subject line, make sure you put, BA 407 or Western class or something, law class, whatever. Otherwise, you probably go to my junk box. I have my junk box set pretty high. I get a lot of emails every day, and most of them are just garbage, but sometimes a legit email goes into my spam box, and then I do check that, but I may miss it. I literally get hundreds of emails a day, so going through all those gets to be tedious. Okay, or if you need to meet for an office meeting, we can do Zoom, we can do face-to-face. We'll just have to do it on an appointment basis. So just call me or email me, we can schedule an appointment. Okay, any questions so far? What am I forgetting? All right, so with that said, grade standard percentages, and the way I will do grades, just so you know, is At the end of the term, I will look at your Mindtap score, and then I manually pull it over to the Canvas grading book. And so I, based upon 1,250 points right here, I use these percentages. So you can kind of monitor where you're at. You know, if you want to get an A, anything 92% of 1250, you can calculate that out. So once you've hit that number of points, you're going to get an A. So you can figure out where you want to be. If you're lacking in points, do a little bit more. You know, so you can target where you want. And hopefully you'll get an A. So it's pretty straightforward in how I do the grading. It's all based on points, just pure points and pure percentages. When you look on the Canvas page, I don't have the grading totally set up yet because I wasn't sure quite how I was going to do it, but it's going to have one column that says Mindtap, and then it's going to say out of 1,350. So when you look at that, you're going to go, wait a minute, Hasbrook said 1,250. And the reason why it's going to say out of 1,340 is 1,250 is the grading, the rest of it's extra credit. That's why it showed up was that way. For some reason, Canvas won't let me break them into two. I'm working on that, but there's some setting in Canvas that won't let me do that. Because I have to take Mindtap and move it to Canvas, and they don't talk very well. But I'll work on that more later. But long story short, you're not going to see your grade number in Canvas until the end of the term, because I will manually input it for Mindtap. But your Mindtap score will up-to-date real time as you work on it, if that makes sense. And as you work through Mindtap, you'll get a sense of it. It's pretty intuitive as you work your way through, and in some ways it's kind of fun to do too. As much fun as that can be. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Any questions? All right, so when does everything due? We're not going to have a midterm. We're not going to have a final. It's all Mindtap. So finals week, you don't have to worry about coming to a final. There's none of that. However, I do want you to have all of your work done, and I will put that on our page. 5 o'clock, that's 1,700 hours, 5 o'clock, the Wednesday of finals week, which is what, the 16th of June or something like that. Make sure you get everything done by then, hopefully before then, because I will be entering grades the Thursday following, and then I'm going camping. And I'm going off grid for like 2 weeks. I don't even know where I'm going quite yet. General idea. Hopefully Yellowstone, but we'll see. Depends on fuel prices. Yeah, I went to Yosemite last week. Beautiful. Oh, the weather was like this the whole time. Crystal clear, but it is a lot of fuel, a lot of driving in 1 week. At any rate, so I think that's it for tonight, and next week we'll start with just doing some lecture. Like I said, we're going to start off with, for those of you that took my BA 230 class, I got some overlap materials. We're going to start off with doing some review on corporations and LLCs and the differences. Just so you know, we're going to review and get in more detail than we did in BA 230, and then we're just going to keep on going. So you're done for today. Go enjoy that sunshine.